Welcome to part 2 of our scene event count video. So in part 1, basically what we did is we added 6 labels, embedded those labels into a stack view, and added some constraints. And what we did after that is we connected each one of the labels via an outlet to our view controller. We set up counter variables for each one of the functions that will get called in our scene delegate. And then the other thing we've done is we've created a function called update view that will go ahead when that function is called, will update the counts for the various function calls. So first thing we need to do is we need to call the update view within our view did load. So let me just go ahead and call that function within my view did load function. So now what we need to do is, let me just do a Command S to save it. So what we need to do is we need to add some code to our scene delegate. So the first thing we need to do in our scene delegate is actually add some code so that we can connect to our view controller code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a var, and it will be a view controller, the name of the variable, and what it's going to be is it's going to be a view controller, and that will be an optional. So we have our hook into our view controller. So what we need to do next is we need to go into each one of our functions and add some additional code. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and set my view controller variable to my root view controller. So it'll be my view controller variable, which I set up above, and what that will do is that'll equal our window. And our window, you can see up above, is an optional. And then it'll be our .root view controller. Since we only have one view controller, our .root controller is the only view controller that we currently have. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cast it as a view controller object. So now we actually have access to our root view controller, which is the only view controller that we have in this app. So what we need to do next is we need to go ahead and call update each one of our count variables when the function is being called. So first one I need to do is it'll be my view controller. And again, that is an optional, and this will be will connect count, and it'll be plus equals 1. Okay, so we need to do the same thing for our scene did disconnect. So again, it'll just be our view controller optional, and let me see here, our will, I think it was, will disconnect. And let me see here, what did I name that again? Oh, did disconnect. Did disconnect count, and that'll equal plus equals 1. And then the scene did become active. So it'll be our view controller. Again, place my fingers on the keyboard correctly. And what we're going to update here is did become active count. And then each time our scene becomes active, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and actually call our update view so that our counts our display gets updated. So it is just a view controller optional dot, and what we're going to be calling is we're going to be calling our update view function. So each time it becomes active, the count should change, and that will display our updated counts when that function is called. So we just need to add 3 more lines of code. So again, it's my view controller, which is again an optional, and what we're going to update here is our resign active count. We're just going to add 1 to it. And then we need to do the same thing down below. Our view controller and will enter foreground or enter foreground count. That's what I called it. Yep. So that will plus equals 1. And then finally, we need to add the same code dot for our enter background count. To keep track of that, increment that by 1. Okay, so it looks like we have all the code that we need. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run our app, and I'll pause it once I get the app running until our simulator has actually come up. Okay, so it looks like our app has come up and our scene counts has been adjusted. So the scene has connected has been called once. Again, it looks like the behavior is a little bit different in your scene where the inner foreground function gets called. When we checked out in version 10, as far as the app delegate, the inner foreground did not get called when the app was initially loaded up. And then the scene did become active function has been called. So it looks like those are working. So what I want to do next is I want to go ahead and go back to my home. So I'll just click on my home button. And I will go ahead and call my app again. Okay, so it looks like resign active has been called once. Did inner background has been called once, and inner foreground and did become active have been called twice. And as you can see, the scene has connected, will only get called once, and that's when the scene initially gets connected. So let me go ahead and move it to the background again, and then click on the button again to bring it back into the foreground. And again, scene has connected, has not been updated. Scene will resign active has been called. Scene did inner background has been called again, and then inner foreground and did become active have been called. And did disconnect has been called. Know if we're actually going to be able to see that update, as once we disconnect the app, we will no longer be able to see the update. So let me just go ahead and hit on Command Q. That'll go ahead and close my app. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and load it up one more time, and we will see what the counts actually look like. It's slowly coming up here, so let's go ahead and see our counts once I close the app or stop the simulator. Our counts got re-zeroed because we reran the simulator again. So it looks like it's working as designed. So that's all I had for this video, so we will talk to you again.